Dear student, my name is Dr. Nazrullah Khan, and I welcome you to my video lectures. Today's lecture is actually the third lecture of chapter number 6, which is financial statement analysis. In this lecture, I will talk about liquidity ratios. Before proceeding further, please pause this video, get your pen and paper ready, and take quality notes because it's good for your learning. As I told you in my first lecture, as a finance manager, you will need some analytical tools, and you will use these tools almost on a daily basis. One of the most important tools is ratio analysis. Today, I'll talk about liquidity ratios, and I'll give you some examples to explain its importance. There are two types of liquidity ratios. One is called current ratio, and the other one is called asset test or quick ratio. Liquidity ratio measures a firm's ability to meet short-term obligations. So let's say if you are a finance manager of a company and you are considering to supply raw material to another company, your main concern would be to assess whether the company that you are supplying raw material to, whether they are able to meet their short-term obligations. In other words, will they be able to pay your loan back? If a company is unable to pay short-term obligations, that risk is called liquidity risk. Liquidity risk is just like a heart attack. It comes very sudden and it's lethal. For example, one of the public sector enterprises in Pakistan, there was a media report recently that they are unable to pay their employees' salaries. So that sends a very bad message to the market. There are some other examples, especially from America, where a news item appears in any media channel that, let's say, a certain bank is unable to pay their depositors their money back. It sends a very, very strong and bad message to the market. And we see what they call bank runs. Everybody is running to the bank to get their money back. And as a result, those banks actually default. They are unable to meet their short-term obligations. Liquidity ratios are balance sheet ratios. And the reason they are balance sheet ratios, because both numerator and denominator, they are coming from balance sheet. So that's why liquidity ratios are called balance sheet ratios. So if I ask you a question, there are two balance sheets. One is basket funders, and so basket funders, and the other one is Aldine Manufacturing. So if I ask you a question, which company is more liquid? And if I say liquid, it means which company is more able to pay their short-term liabilities. So I'm talking in comparative sense. So if you see, basket funders has a current assets of 1,195, and they have a current liability of $500, which means that in the next 1 year, basket funders needs to pay $500 to, let's say, its creditors. On the other hand, they have $1,195 in current assets, which means that $1,195 of assets they can convert into cash within 1 year. So in a way, basket funders has $1,195 to pay $500 in the next 1 year. So apparently they are in a comfortable position. Aldine Manufacturing, on the other hand, they have a current asset of $2,241, and they need to pay in the next 1 year $823. So if I ask you a question, which company is more liquid? Of course, we cannot simply compare the absolute numbers. And as I told you, absolute numbers are misleading. So here the current liabilities for Aldine, the current assets for Aldine is 2,241, and current assets for basket funders are 1,195. So simply we cannot compare these two numbers because the asset size or the firm size of both companies are different. Here the total assets for basket funder is 3,250, and if you see here for basket funders is 2,169. So in order to answer the question, which one is more liquid, we have to calculate some ratios. And one of the ratio is current ratio. If I calculate, I'll actually tell you in the next few slides, how do we calculate current ratios. For Aldine Manufacturing, the current ratio is 2.72, and for basket funders is 2.39. So this ratio means for Aldine Manufacturing that for every dollar of liability, current liability, they have $2.72 in current assets, which means that they are in a comfortable position to pay their short-term liabilities. Any ratio more than 1 is good. The book Fundamentals to Financial Management by Horne actually says that anything between 1 and 1.5 is desirable. It's acceptable actually. But comparatively speaking, if we compare both the ratios, of course, Aldine Manufacturing is in a better position to pay off their short-term liabilities. So types of liquidity ratios, as I said earlier, there are two types of current liquidity ratios. One is called current ratio, and the way we calculate current ratio, we simply divide current assets by current liabilities. And from investors' point of view, a higher ratio is more desirable because a higher ratio shows that the company is more able to pay their short-term liabilities. Asset test or quick ratio, on the other hand, it shows a firm's ability to meet current liabilities with its most liquid assets. So from most liquid assets, what we mean that how quickly we can convert those assets into cash. That's why it's also called quick ratio. And the name asset test, I was reading actually in finance literature that in previous days when traders, they used to buy gold, they used to conduct asset test because they were not sure whether the metal they are buying is actually gold, pure gold. So what they did, they used to conduct acid test. And if the metal did not create any corrosion, it passed the test, and they would assume that, okay, yeah, this is pure gold. So acid test or quick ratio actually tells us the firm's ability to meet its current liabilities with its most liquid assets. Although inventories is part of current assets, but they are not considered as the most liquid one. So that's why we subtract inventories from the current assets in order to calculate the quick ratio. Example. So I'm working with the exact balance sheet that I talked about earlier. It's basket funders. And if you see, we can get the current ratio by dividing current assets with current liabilities. So in this situation, current assets is $1,195 and current liabilities is $500. So the current ratio as a result is 2.39, which means that basket funders has $2.39 in current assets in order to pay $1 for current liabilities. So This one is, since it's more than 1.5, it's more desirable, it's acceptable. They are in a comfortable position, in other words, to pay off their short-term debt. If we compare basket funders with industry, the current ratio for 2003 for basket funder is 2.39. For industry, it was 2.19. Where are we getting these industry numbers? Unfortunately, in Pakistan, there is no way we can get these industry standards like for ratios, like the averages for ratios. In the US, there are certain companies who calculate average ratios across industries. So we are getting this number actually from that publication. In 2002, basket funders was 2.26 and industry was 2.09. So if you see overall, basket funder ratio is actually stronger than the industry average, which is a good sign for basket funders. So is a supplier to basket funders, suppose if you're supplying raw material to basket funders, it should give you a lot of comfort that, okay, they have a good current ratio. If you plot those ratios, it's called actually trend analysis because we are comparing ratios for different years. If you see here, basket funders in the last 2 years is actually outperforming the industry, which is a good sign. Graphs always help. So I will encourage you, if you are writing any analytical reports, please make graphs whenever they are possible. Because graph, is the famous saying goes, picture is worth 1,000 words. It gives you a broader picture in a single glance. So I highly recommend, if you're writing technical reports and if you get a chance, please make graphs. It's very, very easy to read. Asset test ratio, as I said, for asset test, we have to subtract the inventories from current assets. So for basket funders, for Aldine, it's 1.19. So how did I calculate it? The way I calculated it, current assets is 2,249 minus 1,329 and then divided by 823. So based on quick ratio, if you compare both Aldine and basket funders, Aldine manufacturing actually has a stronger quick ratio. If I compare basket funders with the industry, basket funders quick ratio is equal to 1. But if I compare it with industry, they're actually underperforming compared to the industry, which means that compared to the industry, basket funders is carrying more inventory. They're probably sitting on the inventory for a longer time, which is not an efficient utilization of actually inventory. And we will talk about inventory turnover in my coming lectures. Inventory management is one of the most important functions that a finance manager has to perform. So what I can see here, basket funders, although their ratio is acceptable, but compared to the industry, they are underperforming. So inventory management, in my opinion, is something that the basket funders can concentrate in this situation. So as you see, their ratio is weaker than the industry. Again, if we plot those numbers in a graph, we can easily see that basket funders, for all 3 years, they are underperforming compared to the industry averages. In my next lecture, I will talk about financial leverage ratios. Please go through the video, and as I said, watch it second by second, because every sound bite is important. I have already uploaded the slides on CMS, so please go through the slides. read chapter number 6, and if you have any questions, send me email at mazula@gk.edu.pk or send me your question in WhatsApp group. This is the book that we are following, and pages 156 and 57 actually provides a very, very good summary of all financial ratios and their interpretation. So please read the book and then read pages 156 and 57 of the same chapter. It provides you a very good summary of financial ratios. Feedback, extremely, extremely important. So please send me your feedback. I learn actually from your feedback. It really, really helps me to fine tune my lectures, and it helps me actually learn from your experience as well. I thank you very much for your attention, and if you have any questions, as I said, send me an email or drop me a question in WhatsApp. Thank you very much again for your attention. Have a great day. Thank you.